Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Alex, and playoffs are coming up. People got some hot takes about what to expect from the playoffs, so I got a couple of my friends that gave me some of their hot takes, so we're going to get right into it. But before we do start, if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure to like and sub. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so it would mean a lot. Anyways, let's get started. So for our first hot take, we got Jordan Poole will win the finals MVP. This one comes from my friend Brendan. You may have seen him on our draft videos, and honestly, kind of have to agree with him, but it would have to assume that the Warriors make it to the finals, and I just don't know if that will happen, but we'll talk about it real quick. On to this next hot take, where we got from my friend Jose, and he goes, if the Kings match up with the Warriors, they will get swept. So this doesn't necessarily tie in with the Warriors and how well I think they will do, but to quickly talk about the Kings, I think the Kings have definitely one of the best offenses in the NBA. I mean, you can just see it from their offensive rating. I would say the Denver Nuggets probably have a better offense just because they have Jokic on their team, but you know, the Kings are right there. If you think the Kings have the best offense just based off the statistics of offensive rating, that's totally fine. But I think one thing that is really going to prey on their downfall is their defense. Although they are one of the best offenses, they're also one of the worst defenses. And if you're going to be relying on Harrison Barnes or Kessler Edwards, who in my opinion are their top two defenders, then that is kind of a yikes. And especially if you're going to go against the Warriors, where all they have is ball movement. Obviously, they have Curry, Clay, Poole. All three of those guys are really great moving around the ball, moving the ball around. There's just so many quick guards. I don't know if the Kings will be able to match up defensively to even contain them. But one thing I guess is on the Kings side is that the Warriors are one of the worst road teams in the NBA. In terms of the Kings, will they get swept? I don't know if they will get swept. They'll most likely probably get one game off of them. I would hope, at least, you know, you don't make it to the playoffs for 17 years or 16, 17 years. So I would hope that you could at least get one win. For our next hot take, this one comes from Aiden, and he says the Clippers can win it all. Now, in my opinion, I actually think that whoever makes it to the finals out of the East is going to be the NBA champion, whether that's Boston or Milwaukee. I guess even if Philly somehow makes it out, I actually could very well see them winning the championship as well if they're able to get through the Bucks or the Celtics. So I don't think the Clippers can win it just based off of that alone. But if we're looking at the Western Conference, obviously right now they are the 6th seed, so they would play the Kings in the first round. Even with Paul George most likely not going to start that playoff series, at least from what I understand, because he does have that injury that he kind of sustained really like a week ago, like 1 or 2 weeks ago. I think even without Paul George, I think the Clippers could very well still beat the Kings. I think it'd be really close. It'd probably be a 6 or 7 game series. Obviously, a lot of people think the Clippers defense is good, and I do think it is good, but I do think it is slightly overrated. I think when you have a lot of ball movement, which is something the Kings do have, I think that alone would be able to take away the Clippers defense a little bit more than I guess what some people may imagine, because Zubac is not very quick, and I think he would kind of get played out of the rotation in a Kings series. So, but even with that said, I still do think the Clippers would win that. And then of course, because we don't actually know so far who they would end up playing in the second round, they could be playing, you know, a team like the Grizzlies. They could also be playing the Lakers. So if they do play the Lakers, again, I think those are going to be some really close series. So I can't really definitively say that the Clippers would win those, but I would imagine by that time Paul George would be back, so it would definitely give them a better chance. But then once we get to the Western Conference Finals, if they do end up making it that far, they would probably play the Nuggets or the Suns, and I think that's kind of where their run stops. But if they do make the conference finals, I think that would be a major W for them, especially with how in and out the lineup Paul George and Kawhi have been the entire season. I think making it to the conference finals despite that would be a major W. But again, if they do end up beating the Suns or the Nuggets, I think they would lose to either the Bucks, the Celtics, or the Sixers. For our last two hot takes, this comes from my friend Hamza, who was also with us during our draft videos. And his first hot take that he gave me was Boston doesn't make it out the second round. So this could very well be a possibility, and I totally understand why. Right now, as it stands, Milwaukee is that number 1 seed, then it's Boston, and then Philadelphia. So what would end up happening with Boston is if they would beat one of the teams, whether that's Miami, the Raptors, the Hawks, or the Bulls, whoever wins that play-in tournament to get that 7 seed, I think Boston is going to win that. But then when they go over into the second round, they're going to have to probably play the 76ers, assuming that they even make it to that point, which I think they definitely will, because as it stands now, they would be playing the Brooklyn Nets, and I just don't think the Brooklyn Nets have what it takes to stop Embiid from winning that series on his own. So in this case, he would be assuming that the 76ers would actually beat Boston, but in my opinion, I just trust Boston a little bit more than the Philadelphia 76ers, actually a lot more, simply because Harden has shown to be inconsistent in the playoffs. He typically underperforms based off his regular season standards, and Joel Embiid always seems to pick up some sort of little injury, whether that's like to a hand or to a leg or his face, right? I think he had a face injury last year, so you know, that's something that he could be dealing with. And then of course we have the inconsistencies of Doc Rivers coaching. He just has a really hard time trying to choose like when to substitute people. I think his rotations can be kind of weird, and he typically doesn't make the right calls as well. If he really needs defense, he kind of just doesn't put defensive players in when he really needs them. So in that case, I just don't think that's going to happen on Boston's end. I think Boston is really good at changing things up, running different defenses, always switching who is guarding who. And to me, that is going to be the deciding factor, because whether you think Boston and Philadelphia are equal, there's got to be one deciding factor that I think will win one team the series. And to me, Boston will probably win the series through coaching, and that will show through the players playing as well, especially on the defensive end, in my opinion. So do I think Boston will not make it past the second round? I do think they will, but I will say even if they do play the 76ers and all of the concerns I have for them, I do think this will probably be a 6 or 7 game series. And for our last hot take of the video, and last one from Hamza as well, he says the Memphis Grizzlies will not make it out the first round. Now, of course, as I record this video, it's really hard to tell who the Grizzlies could play, because right now, the play-in teams are the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Timberwolves, and the OKC Thunder. So, in my opinion, if they matched up with the Lakers, I could very well see them losing that series, but if they do play the Pelicans or the T-Wolves or the Thunder, I think they could very well still win that series. It should also be known that the day I'm recording this, Steven Adams did get listed as probably out for the playoffs due to a knee injury, so I think that definitely does hurt their chances. And again, if they play the Lakers, that is a huge loss for the Grizzlies. The question for New Orleans as well, if New Orleans does end up playing the Grizzlies, because right now they are the 7th seed, so they could very well still be in that 7th spot once we get to the actual playoffs past the play-in tournament. Is Zion going to be healthy? As it stands right now, he's still kind of questionable. I actually don't know if he will play in that first round. If he does play in the first round, it will be a little bit interesting. Obviously, like, we'll have to see how quickly he can just get into playoff mode, especially since I don't actually think he's played in a playoff game, and if he has, it's been in the play-in tournament, right? I just don't know, even if Zion is there, if the Pelicans would still win that series. I think adding Zion definitely makes it a little bit harder for the Grizzlies, but they have Jaren Jackson Jr., one of the best defensive players in the league. John Morant is starting to get back into the lineup as well. I think Desmond Bane does play a huge part. Dylan Brooks, obviously a great defender as well. But losing Steven Adams really does hurt them, especially since they've already lost Brandon Clark as well to an injury, and he's not going to be in the playoffs. So they're going to be having a lot of Jaren Jackson Jr. center minutes. And I just don't know how that's going to play out, so it'll be interesting. But I do think Memphis can make it out the first round. And there you have it. Those are all the hot takes that I was sent from my friends. Let me know down below if you guys agree with me, or if you agree with any of the hot takes that we went over today. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and sub. Check out my socials down below in the description, and you can check out this video somewhere on the screen, where I go over 5 players with the most approved going into the NBA playoffs. Anyways, see you on the next one. Peace out.